Hey guys, how we doing? Back in another Mother's Basement video. Still on the whole Jojo's train. Oh god, I'm really enjoying part 5 at the moment. Golden Win. I'm on like episode 10? No, 12, I think. Try not to watch too many because I don't want to like be waiting, if you know what I mean. But anyway, let's get into this. Top 5 fights in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Oh, there's so many good fights though. There's so many good fights. And it's really weird because I really like the like part 1, part 2 fights because they're just so over the top and ridiculous when they've got people in the background explaining what's going on and stuff, like with the whole like Dio freezing stuff and using the Hamon and that, like. But obviously the stand fights are incredible as well. I just love the ridiculousness of everything. Right, anyway, let's get into this. Top 5 fights in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Ah.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is one of my favorite anime and manga for so many different reasons.
Once part 5 finishes, I think I'll start reading
subscriber milestone special.
6
but
in
I haven't really had a chance to
manga.
talk about one of my favorite aspects of the show, the fights.
Yo. Dio! Yeah! Oh my god.
Which are among the most creative and mind-bending in the shonen battle.
They are.
So today, in
so
order
weird.
to make up for the disappointing lack of JoJo animes, and to celebrate reaching 750,000 subscribers...
Damn!
Oh my god! Seriously,
Yes.
I can't believe we made it.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna run through my 5 favorite fights in the JoJo anime so far. And only the anime, because I don't want to spoil anything coming up for the new season and beyond, and because if we counted the manga, I'm pretty sure all of the winners would be from part 7 and 8.
Ooh,
obviously, though,
interesting.
this list will contain spoilers for the anime, including a little bit of what's aired from part 5, so if
I think we're alright. I'm on like
you
episode
at your own risk.
10 or 11
As is the norm with
or
my
12,
top lists,
I think.
I'm going to be
I've seen these
breaking
episodes.
down each spot into categories, in this case based on the types of abilities
Yo,
wielded by the enemies.
fight with the bird and
that way I can avoid repetition
dog,
and
Iggy.
sneakily throw praise at a lot of the show's
amazing.
other incredible fights through honorable mentions. Now, before we begin, I need to quickly get one thing out of the way. This is a list of JoJo's best fights only, so only encounters that actually involve combat will be counted.
Right.
Unfortunately, that means that some of JoJo's goofiest and most entertaining moments, like Josuke and Joseph scrambling to care for Actung Baby, and Boingo defeating themselves through sheer incompetence, aren't eligible. And that also discounts some really powerful moments of character growth, such as Caesar and Joseph's Hamon training under Lisa, Rohan and Koichi's haunting encounter with Reimi in the alleyway to hell, and Yukako's transformation physically and mentally at the hands of Ayatsuji and
I think we know what fights are.
For the record, my favorite
never
of
mind.
these encounters is Tonio Trussardi and Pearl Jam in Let's Go Eat Some Italian Food. Not only is it a very creative and fun little character arc, but it establishes the idea that stands can be benign or even helpful parts of JoJo's
that was
world,
cool.
laying the groundwork
because it's always like, this stand can fight this ability, and this one's like, this guy's like,
it is,
nah,
to
I want to
me,
make best
almost
food.
as redefining a moment for JoJo as the initial introduction of stands.
Stands,
Speaking of, at number 5, and 3 of the other slots on this list, so I'm kind of cheating with that segue, we're talking about stand battles.
Right.
Specifically, battles involving short-range stands. And since most of the stands that we've seen so far in JoJo have been short-range stands, I'm further breaking that category up into 2 types. In 5th place, we're focusing on short-range indirect stands. That is, short-range stands whose primary ability isn't used to do direct physical damage to the opponent. So those would be stands like Alessi's Seth, which can make physical attacks if it's brandishing a weapon, but which primarily works to disable enemies by reverting them to childhood. Or Rohan's Heaven's Door, which allows him to read lines and write orders into them, or Enigma, which can fold any object or person it touches up into a paper tangram. Because short-range stands are very powerful, these abilities are almost always able to instantly incapacitate any foe under the right conditions. So they create really interesting puzzles for our heroes to solve, and allow JoJo to break away from typical combat conventions. The recent fight from Part 5, where Abacchio has to use Moody Blue's rewind ability to figure out how Soft Machine works while avoiding its attacks, is a particularly cool example, with a triumphantly stupid and awesome final twist.
It's another
These
boat
stands
within
can
a boat.
also force our heroes into fighting by unconventional rules, like having to gamble for their souls with the Darby brothers or play rock, paper, scissors against Johnkin Kid.
Who was
The
actually
best
quite
of these
bad at it.
fights push Joe Bros out of their comfort zone and can force them to use their own
video
abilities in ways that would never come up if every fight came down to simply trying to murder the other guy better. And my favorite
I'm gonna
of these
murder you
stand
better than-
fights, as well as one of the earliest, does both. Death 13, the stand of the sadistic little
That
baby
was
mannish
weird.
boy, is, well, he's Freddy Krueger. He can pull people around him
In his
into a
dreams.
nightmare world
Yeah.
of his own creation, and if they die in the dream, they die in real
Yeah, but they
life.
forget
Not
when
exactly
they wake
an
up.
original concept, but Araki added two interesting twists to it. Firstly, if a victim is woken up before they can be killed, they forget everything
Yeah,
about the dream
that was
except
cool.
for the sensation of fear. And secondly, stands can't be used in the dream unless they're active before the
They
user
wake up.
falls asleep.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's also pretty novel that the enemy stand user is a sadistic sociopathic baby with the mind of a genius adult. He's a fun, eminently hateable
Who ends
antagonist
up eating
you
poop.
really want to see shit, which, incidentally, he does, because
Ah,
Araki loves his potty humor,
bah.
but that's after the fight.
Bah.
This marks one of the first and still most ingenious examples of a Joe Bro using the power of the enemy against them in
Oh yeah, leaving the message on his
victory.
arm.
At first blush, a stand that can hurt you in your dreams and remove all memory of the attack if you survive sounds unbeatable. It always has the element of surprise, and you literally need to know it's coming to prepare for it. And indeed, Kakyoin would be dead meat if he didn't get more than a little lucky here. Although it doesn't quite feel like Deus Ex Machina, because Kakyoin getting lucky involves crashing a plane in his sleep and getting knocked the fuck out by his friends who think he's crazy.
Yeah.
And he still earns his victory by figuring out that, because he can be harmed in the dream, he can carve a message to his waking self into his own arm.
Yeah.
Which allows him to deduce that the baby is a stand user and causes the outburst that leads to him getting knocked out with Hierophant Green active. Death 13 is a really unique battle that strikes a great balance between actual strategy and absurd slapstick coincidences, which is the exact cocktail that makes many of JoJo's lower stakes fights as fun and memorable as its most climactic clashes. It doesn't always get the mix right, but when the show does, it can be funny and exhilarating
Oh my
in equal
God.
measure, and Death 13
Bah,
is
that's
one
weird.
of the best examples of that. Moving on to fourth place, we're honoring the best long-range stands.
Long range.
Which is mostly self-explanatory. Long-range stands generally aren't as strong as short-range ones, but they make
They
up
can
what
do
they
some
lack in
bad
power
stuff.
with versatility. A long-range stand user can pelt their foes with indirect attacks from a distance, whittling them down over time without ever exposing
That was cool. The one that could
themselves to
travel
harm.
through
These fights
reflexive,
often force
like
the Joe
reflections
Bros
of that.
offensive as they try to close the distance with slippery, cowardly foes like Whole Horse, Jay Guile, Shigechi, and Whole Horse again, but this time with Boingo. Or they might have to find and capture an unseen
Whole
enemy
Horse
like
never
Angelo's
willing to fight on his own.
Aqua Necklace, or
he's
Middler's High
stupid.
Priestess, who could turn into any object and hide in plain sight, a concept so cool that Capcom had Araki redesign her character just so they could use her in the fighting game.
Oh, wow.
In any event, as opposed to the action-packed brawls of close-up stand battles, these fights tend to be tense cat and mouse affairs, where finding information on the enemy is the key to victory.
Yeah, you
and
gotta know what they're
Araki
doing.
really capitalizes on that tension in the first arc of Part 4, as
my
Jojo
God.
is dogged at every turn by Akira Otoishi and his deadly electrical stand Red Hot Chili
Red
Pepper,
Hot Chili
who
Pepper.
menaces them even as they're trying to fight other stand users. It's definitely a cool story setup, but the fight it leads up to is a little bit anticlimactic.
Yeah, that's very
which
anticlimactic, isn't it? Yeah, it
kind of
doesn't
a
do
problem
much.
for most of these long-range battles. Funny enough, Kira Yoshikage isn't actually a long-range stand user, but his fight with Josuke still
Technically.
manages to embody everything that makes long-range fights so fun while shoring up some of their weaknesses. Unlike a lot of long-range stand battles, this one starts in close quarters, which makes it feel inherently more personal and intense. What's more, it starts with our hero cornering the bad guy for once, which shakes up our expectations,
Boss.
though that doesn't last long. Kira is able to keep Josuke at arm's length thanks to Stray Cat.
Oh yeah, of course, it's a different stand, isn't it?
Living stand that can control bubbles of air. I know it sounds weird, but trust me, it makes sense in context.
Yeah.
That ability isn't all that dangerous on its own, but with Killer Queen's ability to turn anything it touches into a bomb, they suddenly become deadly, invisible homing missiles. Using the bubbles, Kira swiftly incapacitates Okuyasu, then pushes Josuke away and corners him in a dusty old house. The contrast between the high of Josuke's early win and the sudden, gut-wrenching low point when Kira takes the upper hand away instantly ratchets up the tension and stakes beyond where they would be if he simply ambushed Josuke out of the blue. But what I really like about this fight is how it forces both Josuke and Kira to play against their strengths. Neither is a long-range fighter, so they have to use little cheats to strike at each other at this range. Josuke combines the projectile
it destroys it so that it can, when it comes back,
Rat with Crazy Diamond's restoration ability to send shards of glass flying toward the serial killer, or specifically toward a fleck of Josuke's blood on his shoulder. Meanwhile, Kira hides his father's ghost in Hayato's pocket, having him relay Josuke's position with a cell phone so that he can attack him without line of sight to the inside of the house.
It's like, what's going on?
Josuke
How are they going to beat each other?
them to create one of the most satisfying and ironic kills in the whole series. Every aspect of this fight, the throwing strength of Crazy Diamond, the offensive potential of its restoration power, even the Ghost Dad and the Polaroid and the Psychic Cat Flower Monster,
it all sounds so crazy.
Firmly established earlier in the series. So we're working with the same knowledge as Kira and Josuke, and we understand how both of their strategies are formulated. We're watching two skilled, experienced fighters duking it out at the peak of their ability, pulling out every stop and using everything we've seen them learn to take each other down. And having seen Josuke previously struggle against Angelo and Akira's ranged attacks, we can really appreciate how far he's come in dealing with these kinds of opponents. Despite how messy Part 4's plotting is at the start, this fight feels
the beginning was a bit like, well, that's like, I always say second half's awesome.
Everything that precedes it together. It's a satisfying, well-earned action climax that makes the anticlimactic but dramatically necessary way that Kira actually needs his end a lot easier to accept. In third place, we're looking at the best fights with automatic stands, which, as the name suggests, are stands that run on autopilot, independent from the will of their user, and
the sword that takes over people. And
these stands are more like curses than weapons, triggering once certain conditions are met, and pursuing their targets until their goal is fulfilled. Automatic stands are not limited in power based on their range, so there's often no escaping them unless their victim can figure out how they work. A single slip-up against an automatic stand can mean death, so encounters with them tend to feel less like fights and scenes out of a horror movie, with relentless monsters.
That design for that stand is amazing. I love it.
Desperately to find a way out. Stands like Sheer Heart Attack and Black Sabbath are
Black Sabbath's
conceptually terrifying,
like in the shadows
though
and
that
that.
horror is lessened a bit once you figure out how they track their prey. When fighting automatic stands, our heroes often have to figure out their conditions and manipulate them in order to gain the upper hand. This can involve playing mind games, like Koichi has to do while battling the lock, but some stands, like Superfly, create conditions that a clever hero can turn to their advantage, though obviously the stand's user will be more practiced at utilizing those abilities. Then there are the stands with minds of their own, like Anubis and Cheap Trick, which persist after their users die and strive to inflict more death through their abilities. They have a lot of horrifying potential that the series hasn't really exploited yet. At least, not in the anime. For my money, the most terrifying autopilot stand we've seen in the anime so far has gotta be Highway Star.
Oh yeah, that was so strange.
Fight in proper J-horror style by luring victims into a cursed room of illusions in the side of a highway tunnel.
And then you've just gotta keep going.
Shit. Equally spooky is the way that it kills its victims, latching onto their bodies and sucking out their nutrients like a vampire. Specifically like a Jojo vampire, who tend to forego the whole neck-biting thing in favor of sifting your organs and sucking your blood out the hole. Once Highway Star has its victim scent, nothing will stop its pursuit. It can only be evaded by moving over its max speed of 60 miles per hour or temporarily trapped, because it can teleport,
they fixed the car.
slowing down for even a second can mean death. death. Josuke needs to find out who and where its user is in order to even
it's the guy
have
at the
a
hospital,
chance
isn't it?
of
Yeah.
fighting back, which means that he's forced to do the most dangerous thing that anyone in this series has done so far: talking on the phone while driving. Luckily, Josuke's crazy diamond
Definitely
allows him to
is
smash
dangerous.
up and repair Rohan's bike at will and avoid the many pedestrians
that wasn't sarcasm,
that his
don't do it.
reckless behavior would otherwise surely kill. But for you non-stand users out there, come on, don't talk and drive. Highway
Yeah,
Star
don't.
gives its foes little time to think, and the only way to keep away from it is to put yourself in mortal danger.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy who really loves a good high-speed chase in movies, and the Highway Star fight really delivers on those same thrills while keeping up the quirky Jojo charm. But what really puts it over the top for me is its conclusion, where Josuke corners its user, Yuya Fungami, in his hospital room and heals his wounds completely so that it won't be unmanly when he beats the
him up.
ever-loving
Yeah.
shit out of him a second later. It's such a defining move for Josuke as a character that it became his most powerful move in the All-Star Battle fighting game.
Yeah?
And man, is it ever satisfying to watch Yuya's smug, shifty little face
Just
transform
drop, yeah.
into a mask of horror
It's like, wait,
as he
whoa,
realizes what's about to happen to him.
Ah,
Speaking of horror, coming in at second place, we're giving a nod to a long-gone
Yes.
era of Jojo battles.
Yes.
Before stands were even a
Like I
glimpse
said
of
at the
Hirohiko
start, these are my
Araki's
favorite
eye,
fights.
Jojo was driven by the age-old conflict between vampires and magic breath monks.
So
The
cool.
Ripple War
It's so
Hamon
stupid
was
and over the top. I
JoJo's
love it.
original unique fighting gimmick. A biological energy that could be channeled to manipulate the state of matter and, more importantly, to fuck vampire faces.
Yeah, man.
And while stands proved to be a much more marketable and versatile gimmick, Hamon was a
Now you can
cool,
breathe.
unique ability that made for some intense battles in the first two arcs of the series.
Yeah, man.
And the grotesque body horror-driven
Oh,
battles
yeah.
of JoJo's vampiric opponents were equally interesting.
I'll absorb
the
him.
battles between them tended to be fast and fatal. The pre-stand era might have been short-lived, but it gave us some incredible moments.
Grenades.
Like Jack the Ripper popping out of a
Oh, the
horse's
horse,
neck,
yeah, that's
Jonathan
weird.
Joestar's big battle with Dio,
Dio!
Wham sewing a bunch of Nazis together into the world's
Yeah,
grossest barrel of
that
Monkey's
was
chain,
weird.
Jonathan Joestar's big battle with Dio, cars getting launched into
Cars!
space, and who could forget Jonathan Joestar's big battle with Dio? Okay, so maybe the opponent roster was a bit repetitive, but in a sense, that was a strength
Amazing.
of early JoJo
Yeah.
that later parts never really captured: recurring villains.
Mm-hmm.
The repeated battles with Dio, Cars, and Wham created
So good.
satisfying antagonistic character arcs and allowed Araki to really experiment with the power sets of both the heroes and the villains while setting different combinations of combatants against each other. Fights in those early parts could build on what had come before, both dramatically and strategically, in ways that the Monster of the Week formula of later parts doesn't really allow for.
Yeah.
And while the final villains of each part usually bring that dynamic back, it doesn't quite feel the same. I think the fight that best exemplifies these strengths is the tragic clash between Caesar Zappelli and
Oh my
Wham,
God,
aka
yes.
the saddest moment in JoJo history,
Yeah.
at least out of what's been animated so far. Caesar's death and the way that
God.
it affects Joseph and Lisa is undeniably beautiful
That's
and
so symbolic.
badass all at once. Where previous deaths in JoJo felt a little weak and contrived with characters dying who hadn't really been
Been
built
there that
up,
long,
this
yeah.
one actually earned its manly tears, and it sets up a lot to be paid off later, raising the stakes of the story, getting us deeply invested in the upcoming clash between Joseph and Wham, and making
Yeah, man.
Cars seem like that much more of a bastard when he finally reveals his true colors. But put all of that aside, and it's still a really cool, interesting, well-choreographed fight.
Yeah, it
Both
is. The
combatants
bubbles.
get to show off new creative uses for their respective abilities, with Wham using his control over wind to turn himself invisible and protect his body from sunlight, while Caesar spins his Hamon bubbles into flying blades
So
and
cool.
uses them as lenses to trap his foe in
The
a
light.
web of sunlight. Another attack so iconic that it became a super move in All-Star
That's
Battle.
awesome.
What's really neat is that these two strategies are clearly connected. Wham's invisibility is based on the same principle of light refraction as Caesar's bubble lens
Yeah.
attack. so their strategies for avoiding the sun's rays outside and bringing its light into the hotel mirror each other. You can follow the chain of logic that Caesar uses to formulate his counterattack and even anticipate what's coming next as he sprays bubbles around the room, seemingly at random at first. It's in fights like this, and Joseph's previous battle with AC/DC, that we start to see the foundations of the puzzle-like stand battles that will define later arcs. But the fact that the fighters are putting their real bodies in danger gives these fights a certain sense of immediacy and intensity.
Yeah, they feel more intense, don't they?
Lack. Although, that's not a problem for our last category. What could be left for first place but to discuss the fights that Jojo is best known for? Short-range battles between super-fast, super stands, usually involving a lot of punching and shouting, though sometimes the weird onomatopoeia comes up outside the fights. Here we're specifically looking at close-range stands that primarily use their powers to directly harm opponents, with any other abilities they have being used to support their physical attack strategy. These are fights that are won with strength and speed above all else. As weird and creative as stand powers can get, it's with these intense punch-em-ups that Jojo really made a name for itself. And from Avdol vs. Polnareff to Iggy vs. Iggy, all the way up to Giorno vs. Bruno, they've consistently remained among the most entertaining, iconic, and memorable fights in the series. They preserve the close-range intensity of those Hamon battles, but often allow for a much broader range of possibilities in how fights can play out. The way that Yukako controls her hair with Love Deluxe could certainly be a vampire power, for instance, but it would be hard to justify the space-erasing abilities of the hand through purely physical means. Perhaps the most deadly short-range stand in the series' history, at least to this point, is Vanilla Ice's Cream, which managed to take out 2 of the Stardust Crusaders on its own. But cool as that fight is, the obvious choice for the top pick is an obvious choice for a reason. And while I hate to be predictable, I'd be being a bit dishonest if I named anything else. Dio's World is one of the most iconic fights, not just in JoJo, but in anime and manga history, period. It has been referenced, parodied, and memed to death and back, both within the series and outside of it. Hell, before the West even knew what JoJo was, Re had multiple Urban Dictionary definitions, and a fan animation of the fight had become a viral hit, at least by 2006 internet standards. When you simply lay out the events of this fight, the time-stop knife-throwing, Dio jamming forks in people's faces and dumping dead cats in their food just because he can, Jotaro's magnet trickery, and, of course, the fucking road roller, it's all ridiculous and over-the-top and awesome in a way that only JoJo can be. You come to Dragon Ball for beam clashes and epic power struggles, but you come to JoJo to see a dude drop construction equipment on another dude in stop time and then punch it so it hurts harder. And as ridiculous as it is, it feels earned. Every step of this fight is justified by the mechanics of JoJo's World, and Dio has been built up so much over the years that he had to be brought down in some spectacular, explosive, ridiculous fashion. Anything else would have felt cheap. It's super fun and inventive as a self-contained fight, but it's also the culmination of 5 years worth of build-up that makes a glorious glopping noise as Dio finally gets his just desserts. Watching everyone figure out the mystery behind Dio's powers and then struggle to find a way around it is exhilarating.
It is cool, like,
Jotaro
letting him know he can control time.
Is one hell of a twist that, while it comes a bit out of left field, is foreshadowed well enough throughout the series not to feel like a total ass-pull, and it leads to some incredibly triumphant moments. The final blow of the fight where Dio's arrogance gets the better of him one last time, and Jotaro is able to use the last second of his time stop against him, is the perfect way to finally kill such an enduring and iconic villain off. Dio's World is still the bar by which all other JoJo fights are measured, and it deserves to be. While upcoming battles will top it in various ways, it did more than any other fight to define this series. I've got a lot more to say about this particular stand battle, but this video's already getting pretty damn long, and I've got that Stan Lee tribute to finish up, not to mention some end-of-year and Christmas videos in the works, so I think I'll have to save that for an anime-lay video somewhere down the line. For now, I just want to say thank you to you guys for sticking with me all the way through 750,000.
A lot of subscribers.
I never thought I'd make it anywhere near this far in my YouTube career, and I wouldn't have done it without all of your support.
We've hit 7,000. Woo!
Other people as well, like my
Which is cool.
editors, Mr. Nice Guy, Adam Nader, Zach, CJ, Flip Anime, Pedantic Romantic, Isaiah, and Trey, who've helped me bring my video concepts and podcast to life, not to mention the many other editors who've helped me with single videos. But the most important person who I have to thank is my girlfriend, Yazzie, who supports me in literally every way you can imagine, all while running her own business. Making 2 videos a week doesn't leave much time for me to handle all the stuff that comes with, you know, being an adult, which I'm not the best at to begin with.
Yeah,
and she juggles a lot of the stuff that I can't handle so that I can keep cranking stuff out.
Bless.
But she also watches anime with me, helps me spitball ideas, encourages me to keep working when I feel like I can't, listens to my scripts and looks at my thumbnails to give me feedback, and helps me come up with better video concepts.
That is really nice.
A lot of the best videos that I've made over the last 2 years, from my dubbed anime openings video to the teardown of Netflix's FMA movie, to my erased Adapt or Die, to my Linkin Park tribute, to the Wascally Wabbit analysis from 2 weeks ago, she hates that name for it by the way, were ones that let me plan out and come up with ideas for.
That's really cool.
Most of the others would be markedly worse without her feedback. It was also 100% her idea for me to start doing the ones to watch seasonal recommendation videos, so if you guys love those or they've helped you find a show that you love, you should thank her, not me.
Cool.
And I cannot thank her enough for everything she's done to support me. Thank you, Yazzie. I love you, baby. Anyway, with all of that sappy stuff out of the way, let me know in the comments below what your favorite JoJo fight is and why. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button if you liked the video, of course, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see a new video from Mother's Basement every Tuesday and Saturday. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my Mother's Basement. God, my cat has incredible comedic timing.
Damn, man. So many good fights in JoJo's. I'm glad like number 2 was like a non-stand thing, because at the start of the video I'm sure I said that like they're my favourite, and they are cool. And Caesar's death, man, was just like, Caesar! Yeah, cool. And the Dio fight, yeah. Dio fight was just like, what? Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you guys very much for I'm going to have to find other Mother's Basement videos to watch now. I think that's all of his JoJo's ones. Yeah, I want my JoJo's. I think I've watched all the Super Eye Patch Wolves videos. Although some of you have been recommending other channels that do JoJo stuff. And I'm sure Noxtaku's done a couple of other JoJo ones that I can check out as well. So there's still JoJo stuff to come, yay! But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below, let me know what else you're watching to discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys. It's all you guys. Next time.